You found a place to belong here in the circle of friends, and we are so thankful that you have joined us today. I am Beth, and again, here with a beautiful circle of friends. I have Missy to my left. She's our producer, so she's the silent partner in today's radio time. But Missy, we're so thankful for all that you do, for using the gifts that God has placed in your hands, for your willingness, your availability, and your obedience. So thank you, my friend. I love you so much. Also here with two beautiful sisters, Bic and Lita. And Bic, you've been on the radio before, and we so enjoyed our time together. And I love that you brought your sister with you this week. So Lita, welcome to Ohio.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome to the radio table. And yesterday you told us about growing up in the Philippines.
Yes.
Both of you grew up in the same family with a third sister. There was a dad, a quiet spirit, a gentle spirit there, who just did whatever he needed to do to make life better or as good as could be for his daughters. And then there was your mom, who was maybe a little scary as you were growing up. She didn't know Jesus.
Nope.
But, however, and yet, God knew the plans he had for her too. And about 36 years ago, she came to know Jesus through the testimony of her daughters. How beautiful. And a little child shall lead them, right?
Yes.
And so we know that, Lita, you went off to school to become a chemical engineer, which tells me you're kind of smart. And you use the word linguistically gifted.
Yes.
Yet another one of those God wirings that you really had no say over. He put that in you. And so you speak multiple languages today.
Yes.
English is not your first language.
No, it's not.
And yet you taught English as a second language in Japan.
To the Japanese.
Yes, that's wonderful. And God knew the plans he had. You were back in the Philippines for a time, and then you landed in San Diego, California, which is where you work from to this
Correct.
very day.
That's correct.
Gave you a passion for the language, the Hebrew language, but also for the people.
Yes.
And oh, so beautiful. When I had the privilege of hearing Lita speak last week, she brought up the book of Ruth. And we read that story
Right.
as part of the lineage of Jesus. And yet, you gave me an even broader perspective of the book of Ruth. Would you launch right into that book for us today?
This is my favorite book. A lot of us think that the Book of Ruth is a love story book.
Right.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It's between Boaz and Ruth. But first of all, I want to introduce you to a different background, because when we read the Book of Ruth in the English, we lose a lot of Hebraisms. I look at the names of the characters. Elimelech was the husband of Naomi. Elimelech, Eli means my God. Melech is king. Elimelech means my God is king. Married to Naomi, which is Naomi in English. And Naomi is from the word Naim, and Naim means pleasant. So, my God is king, married to pleasantness. And then they had two children, Malon and Chilion. Chilion means sickly, and Malon means pining. Now, look at this family. They're running away from Bethlehem. Well, that's kind of a familiar word, right? It's Bethlehem in English. Actually, the word Bethlehem, two words, Beth,
Yes.
and lechem. Beth is house, lechem is bread. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Jesus was born in the house of bread. Later on, he said, I am the bread of life. Later on, he broke bread, gave it to his disciples, and said, this is my body, broken for you. Now, so this family, because there was a famine in Bethlehem, they're running away. It's just so, just like an irony or a paradox of some sort. Like they're running away from the house of bread because there was a famine in the house of bread. And so they went to Moab. And there in Moab, they lived, and the two boys married to two Moabitess women. The two Moabitess women namely Ruth and Orpah. Not Oprah, but Orpah. Actually, Oprah's parents, Oprah Winfrey's parents, misspelled the name. It should have been Orpah.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, and so let's investigate their names. These two ladies' name. Ruth means friendship.
Okay.
Orpah means to turn the neck. And so this is a different story now, you guys, because we are using the root of their names in Hebrew. So now we understand when Elimelech died, Mahlon and Chilion died. Now there's only Naomi and the two daughters-in-law. Okay, and then it's time to go back to Bethlehem because there's nothing there for Naomi. But look at the attitude of those two daughters-in-law. This is what Ruth said. Entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me, coming from the mouth of a Gentile, coming from a mouth of a lady who grew up in Moab. Moab is a very, very pagan nation. Why? What happened to Ruth? Remember her name, friendship. She became a friend of Naomi. She became a very good friend of her mother-in-law. Now, what I believe is this family, Elimelech, Naomi, and the children brought the way of life of the Jewish people to Moab. And Ruth found God in that family. And so when Naomi decided to go back to Bethlehem, no, don't leave me, Mom, she said. And look at the other attitude of Orpah. Orpah cried, and yet she did not entreat her mother-in-law the way Ruth did. She, because of her name, turning her neck, she turned her back and went on and stayed in Moab. Now, earlier I said the book of Ruth is not just a love story, it is a prophecy. Now, why a prophecy? You see a picture here. They came back. They moved back to Bethlehem, Ruth and Naomi. And you know the rest of the story.
The love story.
The love story now. But this love story is the prophecy. Who introduced Boaz, the kinsman redeemer, to Naomi? It was Ruth. Now let's investigate these characters. Ruth is a Gentile, a friend, introducing the kinsman redeemer, which is Christ. You know, we see Boaz as the typology of Christ. And Ruth introduces Christ to Israel, Naomi. We are the friends of Naomi. We are the friends of Israel. Who would tell them about Christ, their Messiah? The Hindus? The Buddhists? No. Us Christians, because we do know their Jewish Messiah, which is Christ.
So beautiful. Like I said, I heard you say that about a week ago, and it has not left me. It is. I wrote it in my notes that night. I reread Ruth, and with a whole different perspective of it, and it's just beautiful. We are that friend of Israel. I for as long as I have been here on this earth, I know that my parents taught me that we are to be a friend of Israel.
Yes.
So that was such a reminder of the lessons that my parents taught me. But recognizing that whole kinsman redeemer in Boaz, yes, we read those words. We know that, he's going to have the family land and allow them to be established. Well, the broader picture here is, yes, Jesus has redeemed us from all that was taken from us.
Yes.
But we have to accept that. We have to accept him and receive his love. It is a love story
It is.
for us.
Amen.
And the book of Ruth shows us that that did happen and it can happen today. But we have to do our part in this. We have to be willing to share the Messiah with others.
Yes.
So beautiful. Now tell me, you told us so much last week. I wish the world could have heard those 2 hours that we had in Sugar Creek, Ohio. Out of that union, we can read in the book of Matthew that that's Jesus came from that beautiful love story that we read of in Ruth. Now, that lineage is so important for all of us to know that Jesus isn't just a made-up character. He had ancestors who walked those pages of the Old Testament for us, but walked that earth, and then here he is today, offering us redemption, salvation, through the very person of who he is and what he did for us. How do you go about sharing that news with the Jewish friends that you have today? You are in this ministry, the Chosen People Ministry. I just know that we have to have the Old Testament. I've heard it said the Old Testament is Jesus concealed.
Yes.
The New Testament is Jesus revealed. When is that aha moment? As you share those truths through the Chosen People Ministries, when does that aha moment come of truly he is our kinsman, redeemer with the people of the Jewish culture today?
Well, I want to share with you real quick. I know our time is really limited, but I was in Jerusalem by myself for 5 days in 2015. And I know the Lord had prepared me for this. I got lost in Jerusalem. I was supposed to go to Galilee, going up north to go to an orphanage. I took the wrong bus. I was going south. And so there's this lady, her name is Or. Or means light. And she's only 21 years old at that time. That was 4 years ago. And she said, you still have time. You still have time to catch the train. I said, no, it's okay. No, you still have time. So I'll take you to my apartment. So I went with her to her apartment so she can get her laptop so I can get to the train station. And then I said, no, honey, it's okay. Or it's okay. I can just go back. And then for some reason it clicked. Lord, I have this audience in front of me in her house, and she's Jewish, and that is Yom Kippur. You know what? In Eve of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. That's the holiest day amongst the Jewish people. And I told her, or do you have a Tanakh? Tanakh is the Old Testament in Hebrew. And she said, no. Why? Well, or tonight is Yom Kippur. What are you doing tonight? Aren't you supposed to go to the synagogue? And she said, no, I don't have anything to do with God. She's 21. And so, okay, can I share with you something? And she said, yes, but I need your Tanakh. She looked and looked, couldn't find the Tanakh, and then she goes, oh, dang, boo. She took her cell phone. Here goes her Tanakh and cell phone. I said, go to Isaiah 53. And me knowing how to read Hebrew, and her, of course, knowing that, we went to Isaiah 53. And because I know the grammar, so Isaiah 53 is talking about a suffering servant, because the nation of Israel, they think that the suffering servant is the nation itself. I said, no, this is, the verbs that are used in the passages in Isaiah 53 is referring to a, third masculine singular, It is a he. And so she read it. And I looked at her and said, so what do you think? And she goes, wow. And I'm like, who do you think they're talking about? And she was shaking her head. And she said, I know some of my friends who believe in Yeshua. In the Jewish setting, you do not lead up a sinner and say a prayer. Their heart, God prepares their heart to accept Yeshua in their own quiet time.
Oh my!
And that's where Hebrew comes in. That's where the knowledge of Hebrew works.
So much to talk about from here. We are at a place where we need to take a break, but I just want to remind us all that sometimes our disappointments, our mistakes, our wrong ways are actually divine appointments by God.
Amen.
And that is the story that you just told us. Oh my, I wish we could just continue to talk, but we do want to take a little break and take a listen to some beautiful music and our wonderful sponsors, and we'll be back because we need to hear the rest of this story. Thanks for joining us here at the table. We'll be right back.
Looking for ways to change up your living space? Stop at Village Gift Barn and view our wide selection of house and home items. Need some tips on how to pull together a room? One of our talented home decor staff will help you put together the perfect arrangement for your home. Located in the heart of Amish country on State Route 39 in Berlin, Ohio, Village Gift Barn, never ordinary, we promise.
Every day they pass me by, I can see it in their eyes. Empty people filled with care, headed who knows where. On they go through private pain, living fear to fear. Laughter hides their silent cries, only Jesus hears. People need the Lord, people need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams, He's the open door. People need the Lord, people need the Lord. When will we realize people need the Lord? We are called to take His light to a world where wrong seems right. What could be too great a cost for sharing life with one who's lost? Through His love, our hearts can feel all the grief they bear. They must hear the words of
You found a place to belong here in this circle of friends, and we are so thankful that you are here with us today. Also at the table again are Beck Meller and her beautiful sister Lita, and we are so thankful that you are here at the table. Lita, you just told us a story about being lost. And here's the thing, you were lost. You didn't know where you were, but God knew exactly where you were, and He knew exactly who He wanted you to meet in that wrong direction that the bus was taking you.
Yes.
And that was your beautiful new friend, Aura. So tell us more. She recognized the truth that you showed her in Isaiah. Are you still in contact with her today?
This is the story. After we hugged and we took a selfie, we were weeping. This was my first time to show a Jewish person Isaiah 53, and I know the Lord was working in her heart because of the emotion. Because, earlier she was saying, I don't have anything to do with God. But when she read Isaiah, everything changed. And then there was a knock on the door, and it's her friend, and they had to go.
Okay.
And I asked her for her telephone number, and I wrote it in my Tanakh. And it's right here in my Tanakh, but I was missing one digit. So when I tried to call her, I couldn't connect. But you know what? The Holy Spirit had spoken into my heart. And it kind of says like, well, Lita, I have the glory for this, not you. And I just fully surrender. Yes, Lord, because I know myself. I will be giving myself glory for for leading a person to you. Yours is the glory only. And I said, one day I will see Or again in Modiin, because she's from Modiin. And I actually ask my friends who live in Israel who are Messianic. There's a bunch of Messianic young people in Israel, and I know one of them. His name is Randy Sigulim. Actually, when the first time I met Randy Sigulim, who is now a pastoring youth pastor, I wanted him to marry my daughter. I wanted so bad to have a Jewish son-in-law. But anyway, going back, I still have her number missing one digit. And that still is a God's design. You know. But now, my husband and I, this is what we do. In San Diego, there's a lot of Jewish employees. In Israel, at the age of 18, you joined IDF. IDF is Israel Defense Force.
Right.
After 3 years for the women and after 4 years for the man, I believe that, I think it's 4 years for the man, they have a choice to go anywhere in the world. They choose San Diego.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of them in the malls. And what I do, my husband and I do, is we walk all over the mall. I wear this. This is the Star of David. And this is called the Magen David. Magen means shield. David, of course, David, the shield of David. This is also in their flag. So I walk around the mall and purposely kind of close to the malls where the Jewish people work. And they would see my Magen David and they would say, "Hey, why are you wearing that?" And I would say, "Manishma mashlamchai." Just jump in Hebrew. And their mouths go, "You speak Hebrew?" And then I go on. And at first I was kind of intimidated to tell them that Yeshua Hanotzri hu Hamashiach. I just said it in Hebrew, but I was saying is Jesus of Nazareth, he is the Messiah, Mashiach. Then later on, I was bolder and I would tell them that. And I just leave them that. And we have gathered a lot of friends in San Diego. My Jewish sons and my Jewish daughters, because they're young. They're like in their 20s.
Right.
20s or, after the IDF. And that's my husband's, and that's my ministry now, is to look for the Jewish people in San Diego and share them the Mashiach.
So right where you are planted there in San Diego, you have a ministry that you and your husband actively give time and resource and relationship to.
Correct.
And that is so beautiful. I think back to your story of Ora, and she said to you, "I have friends who talk about Jesus."
Yes.
So that to me says that he has brought people into her life to surround her with the truth, capital T,
Amen.
of who Yeshua truly is. You were part of the puzzle. You perhaps didn't complete that puzzle that day because of that missing number, but you were part of the puzzle that will become the story of her life. How beautiful just to use what God has given you, what's in your hands to use. What a beautiful reminder for each and every one of us, wherever we're at. There are people who need to know the Lord. He has given us words. He's given us His word to speak truth. And I always come back to that quote of Mother Teresa. And again, I think perhaps it was St. Francis of Assisi who said it first. Preach the gospel always. Use words only when necessary. Yes. And that's what you're doing. I love it. So there you are. And I have had the privilege of hearing part of this story before, but there in San Diego, not only do you teach, did you say at the Maranatha Bible School?
Maranatha Bible College. You also teach in your own church. Yes.
And then you teach in another place that's kind of unusual.
Yes, my husband and I attend a Messianic synagogue in San Diego. It's called Kehilat Ariel. Kehillah means a congregation. Ariel, Ari is lion, El is God. It's congregation of the Lion of God. So my husband are busy all day, almost all day. Saturday we are at the synagogue, and then on Sunday we are in a Christian church. My pastor and my rabbi are very, very good friends. My pastor, Love Israel, Pastor Ray Bentley, he is actually known, quite known in the United States. He's an author, and he pastors 7,000 people in San Diego. Now, at the Messianic Synagogue, right now, because I've been busy, teaching at the college, I have stopped teaching the little ones Hebrew.
Okay.
I used to teach the 8 years old up to the 12 years old kids Hebrew. And they easily
Right.
catch it.
Right.
Yes. And I also belong to what we call a Jewish dance ministry. My rabbi would take us to his speaking engagements, and we dance. There's about 4 or 5 people, sometimes 6 people, because dance is a part of worship amongst the Israelites or the Jewish people. You remember in Exodus 15, who led the dancing? It was Miriam with the
yes.
tambourines, and they sang before the Lord after crossing that.
Well, and I think about
The sea.
the scriptures that talk about how David danced before the
Exactly.
Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So dance is definitely a part of that worship that we
Amen.
read about in the Old Testament. So that is so beautiful. Other parts of your life there in San Diego, how do you balance it all?
I don't know. I only work 3 days a week for Chosen People Ministries, and then I teach in the fall semester at the college, and spring semester. So summer is actually laid back a little bit. So that's why I'm here.
That's why you could come and celebrate your nephew's graduation
Correct.
with your beautiful sister and
Correct.
her family. We are so thankful that you were able to take this time. You're going to be with us the rest of this week, so we have all kinds of things to learn. This was my takeaway from that 2-hour, I don't know what to call, teaching session, I guess, that I was so privileged to be a part of last week. There is so much in our culture that we do not realize came directly from the Hebrew culture. Our prayers, our words, alphabet, we can't lay claim to that, folks. That's directly from the Hebrew. There is so much that we read in our Bible that we're probably misunderstanding because we don't know the Hebrew language. But you explained to us about Psalm 119 and the different passages we see of about 8 verses in each of them, and how each one is labeled with the Hebrew alphabet. I remember as a young child of 5th or 6th grade, we had opportunity at our school to lead devotions. So if there were 25 kids in the classroom, then every 25 days, or perhaps it was weeks, one child on a Monday morning would just recite or read a passage of Scripture. Well, this is what I know. That vain young child that I was, there was a passage in the Bible that started with the word Beth. And I remember reading that to my class. And it wasn't till years later that I actually took those words and applied them to my life. And wow, the Hebrew language has influenced me without my even recognizing it. And that's what we want to talk about when we come to the table again tomorrow. Again, we're so thankful that each and every person that God has drawn to the table today is here, is listening, is learning, and is going to be doing what only God recognizes and realizes for our lives as we apply the truth of His Word to our day-to-day moments. We are thankful that you're here. You have found a place to belong right here in the Circle of Friends. Thanks to generous donations, this program is produced by Circle of Friends Ministries. You can write to us at P.O. Box 345, Berlin, Ohio 44610, or contact us at 330-852 0000. You've found a place to belong.